We got the idiot Michael Moore as a warning for Democrats. We shouldn't gloat. We shouldn't gloat yet. Michael Moore warned that it is not time for the Democrats to gloat after President Donald Trump had a Republican repeal and replacement bill for the Affordable Care Act pulled. During an interview Friday on MSNBC, All In with Chris Hayes, the 62-year-old filmmaker said instead of throwing an early party, Democrats need to double down and use this to fix the parts of Obamacare that cost us votes in November and push for a single-payer insurance Medicare for all. The good news is that millions of people who are beneficiaries of Obamacare are not going to be thrown out on the curb tonight or tomorrow night or anytime soon, Moore explained. So that's great news. Everybody can feel good about that. But this is not time for the Democrats to gloat or throw some kind of a party. Yeah, they're really good at throwing these kind of early parties. Yeah, we won. Wait a minute, we didn't? This is time that we now have to double down, he continued. All right, so I feel like I'm repeating that. Let's play the video.
Oh, I love post-race. You're on a high all day long. You come home and your kids think you won because
10 seconds before the commercial ends.
I love to adjust my bed to soften it a little bit. Diving into a softer bed, it's just so comfortable.
Thank you for
Joining
telling
me now,
us.
Academy Award-winning documentary filmmaker and activist Michael Moore. Michael, your reaction to what happened today?
Well, immediately, the good news is that the millions of people who are beneficiaries of Obamacare are not going to be thrown out on the curb tonight or tomorrow night or anytime soon. So that's great news. Everybody should feel good about that.
Yeah, you can.
But this is not the time for the Democrats to gloat or throw some kind of party. You know, like they're really good at throwing these early parties, like, "Yay, we won." Wait a minute, we didn't. This is the time we have to now double down because please understand that Trump is telling you the truth when he says that Obamacare is going to explode or implode, depending on which side of his brain he's listening to. It will do one of those things because they are going to actively make sure that happens. They and the profit-making insurance companies are going to make sure that it explodes. So
this is the really worrisome scenario, right? The sort of
what a piece of
by
crap
sabotage,
you are, Michael Moore.
because you now have Tom Price, who is probably one of the most committed.
Oh yeah, right. You see this? They have this piece of dirt come on TV to tell you that. Yeah, he's right. Yeah, he's right. It's going to implode without him touching it. All on its own, you lying piece of dirt. That's all. That's all I have to say. See, the people who watch my show, we're just making fun of you, Mike.
Foes of Obamacare who exists, who's running HHS, which has a lot of latitude, and you've got this situation where, and you can tell, and it's almost, I have to say, it's very bizarre and almost chilling to hear the president sort of talk about how it's politically beneficial for him if the healthcare system explodes in the country that he's representing. Is that, I guess that's your concern?
He's not saying that, and he's not bragging that he's going to benefit from it. What he means is, it's going to die on its own. And the easiest thing for him to do would be not to do anything. To not try to repeal it like he's trying, which is a lot of work. It's a lot of work. So the easiest thing to do, which would benefit him, so that's what this guy means by benefit. So Trump says the easiest thing would be for me to do nothing. And let it just explode in about a year from now. But that would hurt American people. So we're not going to do that. We're going to try to repeal and replace. Then that didn't work. And the Democrats and some sneaky rhino Republicans backstabbed us and went against it. So now that it's going to be in place, it's going to implode, but it's going to implode on its own volition. Has nothing to do with Donald Trump. And this guy right here is now trying to say when it does implode, it's President Trump's fault. And
you mobilize to make sure that doesn't happen?
Okay, here's how we mobilize. First of all, we need to really make sure, because this happened very fast in the last 24 hours, Trump and Speaker Ryan changed the bill in the 11th hour to try and get more of the Tea Party Republicans to vote for it. They made the bill meaner. In the last day here, the vote that was actually going to be taken was going to be taken on a bill that said that insurance companies are no longer required, and that means not just Obamacare now, that means everybody watching this, all insurance companies, there it is on the screen, we're not going to have to provide these services even for people who have health insurance. So no outpatient care, no emergency, no ER visits, no, don't get pregnant. We're not covering that. We don't have to by law anymore to have to cover any of these 10 things. They put this in the bill to sweeten it for the hateful Tea Party people, and they still couldn't get enough Republicans, even by saying, we'll cut out the ER visits. We'll cut out the maternity and the pediatric stuff. How about that? No, we won't vote for it. So please understand that the Republicans, and especially I'm talking now to the people in Michigan who voted for Trump, especially those of you who voted for Obama, and then changed and voted for Trump, these people are out to make your lives a living hell. And they tried to do it in the last 24 hours in a way that hasn't really been reported on much. But you should go online and look this up at what they...
See, here's the problem with that. Anything this guy says is a lie. I now have to look into whether or not those items, and if this even happened. And here's another thing that makes me wonder if it's true or not. He just said, oh, this wasn't really widely spread and no one really knows about this. Do you really think the mainstream media would have let this go? Do you really think that Michael Moore and the mainstream media would have let this go if this was true? No, that's why Michael Moore squeezed on to this MSNBC that no one watches hardly, and with this other dude, whoever he is, and no one watches, and I bet you it's aired at, was it 8:22 p.m. Eastern Time? Where? What channel? MSNBC? Live? With like 20,000 people watching worldwide? This is unreal. We're going to find out. We'll find out. I would be surprised if Trump did that in the last hour. I really would, because that would be the first time he ever did anything to the sort that would be mean. And you know what my first instinct is? Hey, maybe Trump did that because he doesn't really want this deal to go through. I just did a story the other day on someone's opinion, and they feel like he's doing this because he knew the Democrats would vote against it. He wanted them to own it. And now that they own it, they've also showed who his enemies are on both sides. Not only the Democrats, but on the Republican side as well. So they all showed their cards, and we know who they are. And I think Trump used that. And now he's going to go straight for the taxes, which is easier. And once that works, we have a lot more happy people with the taxes. It'll be a lot easier to get the health care pushed forward next year when it does implode on everyone. And yes, Americans are going to be hurt by this, but it's because of the Democrats and the Republicans making, not giving the vote. It's not Trump's fault. He tried and did everything he could.
Really, we're going to vote on today. And they couldn't even get enough Republicans to vote for this hateful, mean-spirited bill. So now the resistance has to step forward. We need to do two things, Chris. Number one, we need to push for single-payer insurance, Medicare for all, the kind the Canadians have, the kind that every other civilized democracy on the planet has. We have to push for this because we do need to fix these parts.
But Michael, why do Canadians come to us for the major emergencies and medical emergencies? Why do they come to us if they have such a great plan? Michael, please tell us. Please. Canadians come here when they have a really important medical procedure to take care of. Why is that, Michael? Why?
Parts of Obamacare that did cost us votes in November. This has to be fixed. Do not sit around and say, oh, we've got our Obamacare. We don't have to, Democrats, you have to get this fixed. But the people who are watching, the people who are members of the resistance, and we're talking tens of millions of people now, we have to shift.
Can you believe that shit? He just called himself the resistance. He's the resistance. They made themselves the resistance now. No longer are Trump supporters the resistance. They took that. They took it. It's sort of like in the movie The Terminator, and you have the Skynet? Skynet goes and frickin' plays a recording and tells all people who are on Skynet's side, like the robots, I guess, you're the resistance. Skynet's the resistance all of a sudden. John Connor? Nope. 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 It's Skynet now. That's what he just did. He just said that to you real quick, and you didn't even catch it. I'm going to back that up, you piece of dirt. Why does this guy remind me of excretion when it's loose? And I'm trying to be nice.
Part of our focus away from Congress, who we have been barraging for the last 2 months with phone calls, visits, letters. We have to go after the insurance companies, because these private profit-making insurance companies are going to do everything in their power to do what Trump said is going to happen. They're going to try to explode or implode Obamacare.
So here's a question about the political lesson, because you and I spoke, I think it was the day after the election, and there was a great feeling of people were stunned. I think in the sort of broad center left, people were upset and confused and angry, and you know, one of the things I kept thinking about was how quickly tables had turned in just the last 8 or 10 years that I've been really covering politics, between 2004 and 2006, and then 2008, and then 2010. What is the political lesson here that you are taking away from what happened in the last 24, 48 hours?
A couple of lessons. Number one, everything that people did to have their voice heard had a huge impact. It made the Republicans scared, and mostly it made them confused. And they really couldn't find their tail as much as they were chasing it. That is because the majority of Americans that I'm part of didn't vote for this man, didn't elect him. And the majority is still out there. The majority did not want this. By the time of last night, Chris, the last poll that showed that only 17% of the American public liked the Republican health care plan. They're down to 17%. So huge movement there. A lot of people, you saw this in West Virginia when you went there with Bernie, people are getting it. They're getting that they were lied to. They were held out. A lot of promises were held out to them that aren't going to come true. And they saw just how transparent the Republicans and Trump were with this bill. This was a tax cut bill for the rich, not a health care bill. This was an attempt now to try and kill Obamacare in actually more cruel ways, because they're going to try to nip and tuck and cut their HHS. They're going to do everything they can to stymie and get in the way of the good that Obamacare does. That's why Bernie and the other progressive leaders of this party, who I believe now represent the majority of this party, have to get out there and push for the real fix. If we don't fix Obamacare in the way it should be fixed, in the way I think President Obama probably would agree it should be fixed, we're going to get hit really hard. And the people that we say that we support, the people at the working poor, the people that are the working class of this country, they are going to suffer mightily. Even though we say we still have Obamacare, they are going to raise those premiums. They are going to try and not cover things.
So that may be true in terms of staking a position, right? But the notion that, first of all, it seems to me that there is going to be zero appetite on Capitol Hill among the Republican leadership that is controlling the legislative schedule at this point to do anything having to do with health care in the near future, having just put their hand on a stove and come away with burns so bad they're essentially in the ER. In terms of, you're talking about essentially advocating a principle, because there's going to be a big fight on tax reform, and there's going to be, it's hard for me to imagine that being anything of a legislative reality.
Well, that's why we have to do what they did for 7 years throughout all of the Obama, both of his terms. The Democrats have to, as they did 50 or 60 times, put forth their repeal Obamacare bills. We have to just start going in there right now with Medicare for all, single payer, and
Wait, but Michael, that was a disaster.
And then we have to get rid of the Republicans next year.
Wait a second, Michael. What they did was if that's the model, what they did was they sold people a bill of goods. They voted 60 times knowing it couldn't happen, and then when the time came, they couldn't actually implement it. That seems a crazy model to imitate.
Well, there's one significant difference between the two models. We know what we're doing, and we mean it. And actually, we're kind of smart.
Oh.
You know, we actually represent the majority of the country that doesn't believe the Earth is 6,000 years old.
Huh?
Okay, so we, the people who understand these things, we are the majority. We are going to go in there and start fighting for these things. And yes, we're going to lose votes. But when it comes our time, and it will come our time, trust me on this, it'll come our time, and we won't do what they did today. We will be ready with the right bill.
Dude, why not just use a brush? Brush through that mane. I know you like your hats. You're on TV. You can not wear a hoodie. Throw on a suit. Be a real person. Just for, if you know, America. Just. You care so much, dude. You can't even throw on a suit for us.
That Americans are going to love. Free health care paid for by the people who should be.
You would look like so much less of a complete and total dirtbag if you would throw a suit on. But you would also look like a schmuck too. Like I'm picturing you in a suit right now, and I'm thinking schmuck. So you know what? I might like you better this way. Take that back.
Be paying for it. The wealthy, the corporations, the people that can afford this, who've been living high on the hog for these last couple of decades, it's time they're going to pay their fair share once we are back in power. We will be in power. We are the majority.
Yeah. Look at him. Look at his whole look says, I'm 16. I'm a millennial. Listen to me. I am a millennial.
We had a blip here. That's all this is.
I think what I'm hearing, and I'm curious to see if this happens because I saw Elizabeth Warren talking about this.
You'll just explode in front of me. No, that's not what he was going to say.
Today, if in the wake of this, what you end up seeing is single payers as an emerging Democratic party consensus on the path forward.
Quickly, also, states can do this now. California, New York, blue states can push for their own statewide single-payer Medicare for all programs. Show the rest of the country how this can be done. California, New York, you did it with Roe v. Wade 3 years before abortion was made legal. It was legal in New York and California. That's one of the reasons we got Roe v. Wade. Do it now with single-payer health care. Thank you, Chris.
Gavin Newsom here in California.
Thanks, dirtbag.